Hello, everyone, and good morning. Welcome to our live feed update for August 22nd. I'm your host, Taran Armstrong, and I'm here today to update you on everything that happened yesterday. The Big Brother 27 live feeds. It was day 45 in the house, and interesting day. Interesting day. An eviction happened, an HOH competition happened, the wall happened, and there's plenty to talk about. With me to talk about it all is Pooya. How you doing, Pooya?
I'm doing great, Taran. This is we're 2 for 2, a Friday morning that I'm happy. Life's good. We're good. Everything's good.
Yes. We are here at the normal later time on a Friday. However, that is not because there was an exit interview. It's just because it's kept at the same time. I guess it would have been confusing, if we changed it. There are no exit interviews today. We'll see if there are any ever. But of course, the evicted house guest, Rylie, is not doing interviews today due to scheduling conflicts.
Yep. Who would have thought, Taran, if you expected to be somewhere tomorrow, but then that plan got canceled, you can still be busy somehow, even though your plans got canceled.
Listen, he had important things to do. They had important things. Listen, it's, you can't understand this show business. People are busy.
Listen, it is what it is. I feel like we knew where that interview was going to go. Everyone else knew. We were excited, but now we wait, and I agree with you. I'm like, I don't know. We'll see if we ever get it.
Well, prior to his eviction, we had a day, of course. Rachel, the HOH, had Rylie, Mickey, and Morgan on the block. And there was a new alliance created called the Judges. We saw this in the episode last night. Consisted of Morgan, Rachel, Ashley, Will, and Vince. They were pushing Vince hard to get rid of Rylie and keep Morgan. He had been talking with Ava, who was leaning toward keeping Rylie. But after a bunch of push from primarily Rachel and not really Will, she was starting to consider. Morgan herself made some good arguments, and Ava definitely started to waver. But when talking to Vince, had not locked in by any means. Vince seemed to be on the other side of things. He was even more hesitant about the idea of keeping Morgan over Rylie. He really did not want to even have to deal with that scenario. And so they, the night before, said, you know what? Let's just decide once the blockbuster results come in. We'll find each other. We'll say what our guts are feeling and just go for it from there. That is where we left off the night before on day 44.
Yes, going into the events of the episode.
Yes. So day 45 starts, and it's more of the same. It's more pressuring of Ava, trying to get her even more on board to keep Morgan. It's more pressuring Vince, Rachel talking to Vince, Morgan talking to Vince. Vince, in the meantime, is a mess. He is Morgan last Thursday with the Zach, Vince decision. He is torn. He's crying, trying to plant the seeds for the Mickey eviction, because he's supposed to be voting Rylie out over Mickey as well, but he does not plan to do that. He had already talked to Morgan about that. She said she would follow him down that path. So now he's trying to say to people like Rachel, well, I will be voting out Mickey, but don't worry, I've got Morgan still. And he's crying and all of that. However, when he talks to Ava, it's another story. We're definitely voting out Mickey, and I'm kind of leaning toward keeping Rylie. I think that's better for my game. And Ava says, I was kind of feeling in like going in the other direction. Ava has been swayed in that direction, but she's not sure either. And so their conclusion again is really just hope that Mickey doesn't win the blockbuster. Really just hope that doesn't happen. And Vince says, well, but if hell freezes over and she wins it, you want to keep Morgan? And Ava's like, maybe. Maybe. Well, frankly, let's just make the decision in the moment. So it comes back to that again. Vince goes to Rylie in the meantime, spills everything Ashley's been telling him, everything Rachel's been telling him, as per usual. Rylie is pissed. Oh, I can't believe she would do that lie on television. She has effing kids. I'm a real mother effer. I don't associate with people like that outside the house. Maybe that's why he's not doing exit interviews. Vince cries to him, Rylie, I just want you to know I have your back no matter what. If Mickey wins that blockbuster, I'm gonna have to vote out more. I'm gonna be emotional about it, but I am voting out Morgan. I know that's what's best for my game, and I need you and Keanu to protect me. I'm gonna have no protection, and Morgan can't protect me like you guys can. And Rylie says, "Don't worry. Outside of this, she'll be your friend, Morgan. She'll be your friend, even if you vote her out."
Taran, it warms my heart that that might be the last time you'll ever have to do that impression ever again. I think we're in a good place. Now that being said, okay, so we need to talk about the greater picture of the blockbuster, the BBAI arena, the 3 noms to 2 noms on eviction night, because I think for some players it works. They are able to pick a side that they want to go with and go. They'll have all the variables. They're like, okay, if this happens, the if function's ready to go for them. But for players like Vince, this is the worst thing that could exist, because the man clearly wanted his cake and to eat it too, but also was selling it to both sides that way, meaning he's letting the decision get so close to the critical time where you're going to just piss off both sides anyway for being hesitant. And I don't think that's a good thing. I think you can get punished in this game for doing that. And obviously, if you are able to nestle safety through your closest ally winning an HOH or you winning an HOH, then maybe you have a week to smooth it over. But I think you lose a lot of social capital by being this like flaky this late into the vote.
I do firmly believe at this point he is telling the truth to Rylie. There's no reason for him to have talked to Ava in the way that he did, where he said that he was leaning toward evicting Morgan, unless he really was feeling that. There's no reason for him to cry to Rylie in this moment and to spill that information the way that he did. I think he genuinely feels like he's probably going to have to evict Morgan. But Rylie says, don't worry, Morgan will be your friend outside of this. And this seems to stick in Vince's mind. My friend outside of this. He goes to Morgan, and she's like we're still good, right? He's like, yeah, of course, but yeah, I didn't want to ask Morgan. I wanted to ask, like, if at any point in this game, if I evict you, would you still be friends with me outside of this? She's like, yeah, of course. What do you mean? Like, I mean, not tonight, right? So no, of course not. Of course not. That's not what I meant. I just, just at any point, she's like, yeah, just, I would still love you, but don't blindside me, right? Like, that's my big thing. Just don't blindside me. You wouldn't evict me tonight. And he's like, no, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that. So, jeez.
Tightrope. It's a tightrope to walk, Taran. My mind would have imploded if I was doing this. I could never.
What a wild thing to ask somebody on the eve of, not even on the eve, as the vote is approaching. Would you still be friends with me outside of the game if I evicted you?
You'd be mad at me if I evicted you is wild to say. Hours before an eviction.
I have to imagine that part of this is what changed his mind. It's hard to say. I think that Ava became further and further locked in. Again, Rachel was pushing Vince a lot. Rachel was pushing Ava a lot. There was another conversation that Ava referred to from Morgan that I think happened that really pushed her over the edge. Ava became more and more locked in. And with Ava being more and more locked in, Vince had fewer and fewer excuses to use to vote Morgan out. She even made it clear that she would be mad at him outside of the house if he blindsided her on the vote. And he somewhere along the lines seemed to be convinced, because as we got to the eviction episode, Mickey won the blockbuster, leaving Morgan and Rylie on the block. Hell froze over. And by a blindside vote of 5-4, Rylie was evicted from the Big Brother 27 house.
I see how many people in the chat were waiting for that to gray out. Here we go. It's official. It's done. He's gone. He cannot be back in the house. We're safe. I didn't expect this day to come this early, Taran. I feel like the doom and gloom was very real yesterday going into this episode. So the fact that we got here is amazing. It was dramatic. May have unlocked the best Taran reaction ever also. So again, like I said earlier, it's been a good Thursday again. Been a good Thursday.
Rylie then, of course, had his exit interview with Julie, although no more of those, I guess. And then they started up the wall comp. Now, here's some things, of course. We saw in the episode itself that Vince and Ava did quickly connect. I believe that Ava mentioned to him that she wanted to keep Morgan in that interaction. Vince tried to go to Keanu to do the like, hey, I've heard that Riley's coming for you thing. Keanu was like, no, that's not true. Keanu, of course, has heard this from Rachel, doesn't believe it. Vince just kind of like tosses it out, like, baby. And Keanu's like, no. But it's a clear indication of where he seems to be heading. The vote locks in. Rylie is evicted. And Katherine and Kelly are pissed. They are pissed. They apparently said to Vince's face, you are dead to me. You are dead to us. Get out of here.
Good. I don't care. I mean, obviously, this is what I said earlier, right? Where if you are selling a bill of goods to both sides, you have to turn on one side in the event that this doomsday scenario happens. You're going to piss them off because everyone's been working on so much reassurance. And a 5-4 is close enough that the people who are on the wrong side are pissed because they're like, well, I mean, I guess these two, not really. They couldn't be like, well, I would have voted with you. They're pissed because you assured them that their friend was going to stay in. So that's not going to feel great. But again, Vince is also a player that, Taran, this is like the worst thing for him, but he's able to handle it. Like this is a role he's been playing this whole time. So if anyone's going to bounce back from this scenario, it's going to be a Vince.
Well, they then got up on the wall. We don't know what happened between the eviction and the wall competition. There were a few hours, of course, in between. Apparently, though, up on the wall, Kat and Vince did talk about it, that Vince did not talk to her or explain himself in any meaningful way while the feeds were down. He said, I wanted to give you some space. So we will see what comes of that. But on the wall, they are competing, and this wall is a bit different. There are not 3 levels of handholds like there were last season that caused a lot of issues for people. This time, there is one handhold below them, and it's a large wooden beam that, quite frankly, is not good if you've got Keanu Butler butt. It's pushing you right out where the butt is. But you can, of course, hold down there like you would typically, like leaning forward like this. However, there is also 2 levels of boards above you, right around where your head is, like right around like head level, and then like slightly above head level. And that is huge because that makes it significantly easier to hold yourself up when the wall tilts forward. Typically, if you're holding down near your waist, as you lean forward, the entire weight of your upper body is leaning forward, and you have to like hold that up. But if you're able to lock an arm up here, you take a lot of that weight off. And so we see a lot of the house guests doing this. Some of them stuck to the lower holds. That did not work out well for them. But overall, this was good for the longevity of the competition. It's the longest one we've seen in a while, lasting a bit over an hour. It took about 30 minutes just to get somebody to fall off the wall. And the first people that we saw come off the wall were Ashley and Will, as they both dropped off relatively close to each other. The feeds were down at the time that they did. But Ashley and Will were the first two off the wall. Ashley, they even mentioned this in the house afterward, sounded like she was giving birth up on that wall.
Yeah, we were listening to this live, and Ashley was very clearly like panting. A lot of noise was being made, even like way before she dropped. She was struggling for quite a bit there before she eventually gave out.
Mm-hmm. So, of course, the big question on everyone's mind was like, who's going to win this? Who is capable of winning this? Who would not target Rachel? Because a lot of the people that just got blindsided are also a lot of the favorites to win this competition. But there is one person that has been talking about the wall comp all season long. And Morgan has been waiting for this. You will have to peel me off that wall. And she is basically the only person who is firmly on Rachel's side this week, who may not take that shot and sort of continue the assault on the other side instead of the potential retaliation. And so there were actually, after all of this, after everything, all season long, people dogging on Morgan. Oh, she's always talking about the wall comp. She's always talking about the wall comp. Whoa, I can't wait to see her lose the wall comp. We got to the wall comp, and the fans were desperate for Morgan to win. Now, I did say this last night. I saw a bunch of people mentioning this to me, that last night we were talking about like who's the favorite. I said, well, sometimes the person who seems like the favorite, they could go out like third on the wall. Like the third one to drop. And that could be Morgan. And the thing is, it turns out that was Morgan. She was the third person to drop from the wall.
You did this. This is on you.
She was the third after an entire season talking about this competition. She was the third person off the wall.
Yeah, and I think she looked the worst of everybody who participated as far as like dismount goes. She full on slipped off of that wall and felt like landed rough.
She committed fully to the lower hold, which was a mistake. This wall seemed to really tilt forward, like more so than I've seen other walls recently. And I think they were doing that because they have the upper handhold to counteract the further lean forward. So the fact that she was committing to the lower holds, I think really messed her up. She slips off, she falls, she even hurt herself a bit here. So Morgan is out, and just like that, there are not many people left on this wall that are not targeting Rachel, but Ava is still up there. Ava is hanging in. A lot of people thought Ava would be one of the first people off the wall. So they were very impressed by the fact that Ava was sticking in there. We talked last night as well about who's maybe one of the worst people to win this HOH for like just like what we will have to watch. And of course, one of those people that we talked about was Mickey, who is still up on the wall, who has beaten Morgan on the wall, but not for long, because Mickey was the next person to drop. And the horror of another Mickey HOH luckily has escaped us.
Yeah. So as of right now, as things stood, we have a couple outs. The poker hand is not as bad as you'd think, but it's not the strong hand we thought we had at the beginning.
Yes. So at this point of the wall, Ava also mostly sticking to the lower hold, but she's short enough that she's not being pressed out of the wall quite as much as some other people. So she actually has seemingly a chance here. You've got Kelly, who's just like holding above her head as much as possible, kind of like wiggling all over the place, being Kelly. Keanu with a staggered strategy with one hand up, one hand down to help rest on each side. Vince doing the same. Lauren and Katherine both tending to hold both hands up, but they both look very stable at this point. And it's at this point that we finally lose Ava. Who drops after Mickey. The lower hold strategy just not working well enough. And just like that, Pooya was streaming with me last night. The question was asked, who's left that won't target Rachel? Is it Keanu? Is it Vince? It's got to be one of them, because certainly Katherine, Kelly, or Lauren will. And it really does feel like Keanu has a good chance at this. There's a lot of strength involved in holding yourself up. Vince also looks pretty solid at this point. But you can't really trust either of them necessarily to not target Rachel. So it's like, well, I don't know. There's a lot of interesting things going on here.
Yeah. I mean, that kept it exciting. I feel like there's still, again, having a couple of, when you're watching a walk-on, you want there to be outcomes that you would be happy with, and then whether you like to admit it or not, it's good to also have outcomes that you're rooting against or you don't want, because it makes it intense. It makes that moment, like every fall, matter more, even though the feeds try really hard to make that momentum shift when they cut the feeds for 4 minutes and you're like, what is happening? I don't know. And then your energy goes away and then has to come back later. But there was a lot of buildup here for me inside that was not good, but also still holding on to hope.
Yes. At this point, Kelly continues to be wiggling all around. She starts like bending backwards, like with her arms straight. It's a wild position. Keanu's like, "Oh, are you just stretching?" And he does the same. And it's like, "Whoa, what is happening here?" And it's like, is she feeling good or is she feeling bad? Turns out she was feeling bad, as she is the next person to drop. Kelly now out, and we are down to 4 competitors left: Katherine, Keanu, Lauren, and Vince.
When Keanu started doing the stretches that Kelly was doing, I was like, you are a big boy. Like, please do not do this. It like he didn't have enough room to do the stretches she was doing. I really thought he had doomed himself, Taran. It was not looking good. But Kelly, I genuinely thought she was just showboating. I did not expect it to for her to drop. But sometimes when you showboat, you weaken your own position. So that's on her.
Mm-hmm. Now, Katherine and Lauren still look pretty locked in. Vince still doing the staggered strategy, as is Keanu. But Keanu's starting to move a little more. He's starting to hold both arms up more often, and maybe looking like he could be struggling a little bit more than he had been letting on before. A lot of people felt like Keanu was the best bet for a sort of like interesting HOH where like what would he even do? Probably go straight after Mickey. Maybe he would target Rachel. We don't even know yet. So that's sort of an interesting dilemma there. But ultimately, it doesn't matter because Keanu drops after Kelly, leaving just Katherine, Lauren, and Vince. Lauren and Vince, 2 of the final 3 up here, but Katherine being up there as well, especially given what we've already heard about how Katherine feels about Vince right now, is keeping this quite interesting.
Yeah, and you know, the script usually dictates that the person done the worst with the latest eviction is the one that's going to rise to power. And she looked great on that wall. Like, we were actively talking about the other people, you know, while watching. Katherine was one whose name was not really coming up at all, which just shows how sturdy and safe she was. Also, when they got Gouda bunch, I feel like her top board seemed like the least impacted of everybody there. So there was no reason to think she's not taking this all the way to the end.
Yes. So Katherine, Lauren, and Vince on the wall, and Lauren is the one that seems like she's starting to struggle a bit. Her elbows are pulling up, which is an indication that her grip is starting to go. Her feet start slipping. And then at one point, as the wall tilts further and further down, her feet slip completely off, and she is hanging on the board, feet dangling, until the wall tilts back up and her feet come back to the platform. And then it happens again. And then she still manages to survive it. And then as the wall is coming back to neutral, her grip just gives out and she finally falls, leaving the final two on the wall as Katherine and Vince.
Two things. One, amazing athletic ability there. Like that looked like a stunt out of a movie. It was great. I loved it. Second, big brother, what's your rush? Where are you going? Why did you? She already maneuvered it once. You didn't need to run it back right after that. Why are you rushing us out of this competition? Let it last another 10 minutes. Why not? That's how
I'm not gonna lie. If I have a button that I can press that causes somebody to dangle, I'm gonna be like, ooh, no, press it again. Oh, she's dangling again.
Oh my god, that is.
I couldn't stop myself. I couldn't stop myself if that were me.
That is the most evil thing I've heard you say, Taran. I cannot believe you're on the side of evil with this one. I would just like give her a reward. Like she just survived this thing. Like don't make her do it again. But anyway.
Well, this leaves Vince and Katherine, and very quickly, Vince starts talking. And it's pretty clear he wants to make some kind of deal, do some kind of negotiation. Now, it's worth noting at this point, as I'm watching, it's pretty clear to me that if Vince wants to win this competition, he will. He looks so much better than Katherine on this wall. He has since the start. The staggered approach is very effective. He has not one arm up over his head holding down, but one arm wedged up into the wall behind him like so, if you're watching the video. And he's able to use that, and then his other arm can be free, resting as he swaps back and forth. And so, meanwhile, Katherine is both arms above her head at all times, cannot move from this position. And you can see that her elbows are starting to go up. Her back is starting to arch a bit. And Vince looks way, way better. However, he's still starting to talk to her, talking about like, so, you know, how are we feeling? And she's like, I don't know, Vince. I don't get why you haven't even talked to me yet to explain yourself. And this is when he's like, well, I just wanted to give you some space. And, things are a little tense between the two of them. The feed's cut. They come back to her saying, I probably will. And being like, okay. Seemingly like he asked, like, will I be on the block? Like that's kind of the implication we got. Like he was like, well, would you put me up? And she was basically like, probably. Not willing to negotiate, make a deal, imply anything other than just I'm against you, Vince, in this moment. Maybe not the best strategy when you are minutes away from falling, but Kat, you do you.
I feel like this was such a freebie to agree on any deal. And then if you win, just put them up and be like, well, you agreed to keep Rylie in and you didn't. So now we're even. Easy. Like no love lost. He can't fight that. Easy. You had it there. I truly don't understand when people are offered deals like this and they just can't. They have to be honest. Like, nah. Like, why?
I could be wrong. I have often been wrong this season because I think I assume too much from the players. at times. There's a world that makes sense to me that if I'm Vince and I just made this move and I don't want to have to target Katherine, I make a deal with her as an excuse to not put her up when I win the HOH. Because it'll look weird if he doesn't, given what just happened. But if he makes a deal with her, he can be like, oh, sorry, I made a deal with Katherine on the wall. Now I can't put her up. Ooh, I guess I'll have to put up Ava. Oh, sorry. And, oh, man, now there's a renom. Oh, geez. My only option at this point, Rachel, sorry. And so there's a world where that was happening, right? There's a world where he was trying to give her an out here, and she just didn't take it. And so the competition goes on, but not for much longer because, as I said, Vince was just in a significantly better position, and eventually Katherine falls, leaving Vince as the new head of household. And he yeah, let's go. I'm not pooping my pants anymore. Woo! There he is, the new head of household.
Well, also, he does that, looks intense. I was like, what are you doing, man? And then it was the most gingerly attempt to come off of the wall I've ever seen. The energy switch was wild.
Yeah. Very funny, very funny. And just like that, here we go. Vince is the new head of household. The question on everyone's mind, of course, what is he going to do? He's got options. Of course, he has this, this new alliance, the judges. He just took out Rylie. Katherine and Kelly have admitted to his face that they are not pleased with him. He has damage control to do with them, with Keanu. He has a theoretical house target in Mickey. And he has his biggest op in the game and biggest threat, Rachel. So where does Vince go? We get some indication by the time the night ends. But it was a little bit of a journey to get there. It took quite a while to eventually get there. Right away, he's already being crowded by the likes of Keanu. Like, oh, you really needed to win that one. Yeah, good thing you won. And everyone's talking about the competition and they're showering. It's not long before Keanu sits Vince down for a little talk, and basically tells him, first Keanu talks to Rachel a little bit, but Keanu basically tells Vince, Rachel, she's such a I didn't realize how powerful she was. I didn't realize how much of a problem she was. Turns out Keanu seems to be blaming Rachel in all of this.
Least surprising thing that could have happened. But also very funny to me that it took him a full 7 weeks to realize, wow, the woman who won the show, I've not watched her season, but I definitely assume she wasn't good at the game, is actually pretty decent at it. Which, by the way, I want to give Rachel her flowers for one thing, and this is the coldest take I'm about to put out there, but Rachel embodies the do never act like it's a done deal in Big Brother. Always push and push hard when you want something done. Because watching her every week when she wants something done, push people after the blockbuster, whether the results are there or not, is everything you want to see in a game player. It's everything you don't want. And we get the opposite from some players who make it seem like they're going to do that. And no offense to him, like an Adrian, who did nothing and kind of just let it happen. Rachel's not that person, and I really appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean, Keanu at this point is the absolute embodiment of the meme that is like the guy that sticks the spoke and the stick in the wheel of the bike and is like, oh, yeah. Why would Rachel do this? Mm-hmm. It's just like, of course, The idea that Keanu would be like, maybe I trusted the wrong people. Maybe Rachel was right. Instead, it's like, damn it, Rachel manipulated everyone again. Now I need to clear things up with all of my bros one more time. There's only one left.
Yeah, man, you're running out of bros. You got no bros left, okay?
Now, here's the thing. Vince is the HOH. You can't really be mad at him. There's no space for that. So there is a world where this is just what he has to do. However, he does encourage Vince to nominate Rachel, which is not really in Keanu's best interests. Rachel being one of the very few people in the house that would not target him in the near future. But he feels like that's what needs to happen. Now, this is important for a couple of reasons. Vince is the HOH, again, has some options. And there's already been a lot of debate. What should Vince do? What's best for his game? Now, I think there's definitely a scenario that you can look at and say, is this a little bit like Chelsea's HOH when she took out Quinn? Like, yeah, Quinn was working with her, but he was also the most dangerous person left in the game to her. And as soon as Quinn left, it was open season. Like, the game ended for Chelsea. She won. Is that the scenario for Vince and Rachel right now? Because she's kind of the only person that's capable of seeing through him. And as soon as she leaves, all of a sudden, maybe Vince is in a decent place. And she was just the house target not 1 week ago. It shouldn't be too hard to get players to drop her again. It's not like they have an intense loyalty right now. So you could certainly convince Morgan, because Morgan will go wherever you go. Certainly Mickey would be on board. It would help appease the players like Katherine and Keanu right now, and take out your biggest threat in the way of winning the game. And I speak this out loud. I'm like, he can't hear me, right? There's definitely no way they can get this podcast in the house, right?
Safe, Karen. Safe space.
But then there is another theoretical path, which is continue on with the judges. Maybe take out a house consensus target like Kelly or Katherine or Mickey, and try to like ride that out for a little while. Is that as viable? Is tough to say, right? You really, I mean, the way I would want to play the game is if I know that there's one person that's been on my neck and has caused me to basically be on the block or close to on the block for the last 3 weeks, I would probably want them out. I would probably want them out. I would probably want them gone, especially when everyone else is such a dummy that they're willing to do things I say and trust me, except for when that person is telling them not to. I would probably want that. But this is not me. This is Vince. And Vince has pretty historically not made bold moves like that. So that's part of this. Another part of this, though, and something that does change the equation a bit, is that when Keanu goes to Vince and says, Rachel is powerful, she should go on the block, she should be potentially, somebody that we think about targeting, Vince is able to go, is Rachel that big of a problem for me if she's still this big of a problem for Keanu? Because now Keanu's after Rachel. Rachel, if I rat Keanu out, could be after Keanu. I could stick true to the judges. I could go after somebody like Mickey, which would still appease Keanu, potentially still appease players like Katherine. I can keep Lauren. I can keep Morgan. There's a path there if he feels like that's a solid thing that he can set up. Is it the path I would take? I don't think so. But is it a path he sees? Potentially. Seems to be something he's thinking about. So keep this all in mind. And also the fact that it's pretty funny to me that Keanu being against Rachel in this moment actually might be good for Rachel, protecting Rachel. Because I think that if Keanu had gone to Vince to say, hey, you shouldn't put up Rachel, she's good for us, I think that would have made Vince more scared of Rachel and been like, oh, if Keanu's on board with Rachel still, that's a problem for me. However, I think in a weird way, the opposite has actually made him feel a little more comfortable with Rachel.
Yeah, I mean, if your big argument for wanting to get rid of someone is they have a lot of allegiances that I also have, or they are able to take pieces off the board that I have, and then Keanu stares you right in the face and implies that she still does not have me, even though you voted against me, you have me. That's not a bad deal for you. That's not a bad deal. But okay, so she's not as strong as I thought, and you just won the wall comp, a BB staple. You might be, your ego might be a little more inflated. You might not see what's clearly in front of you at the moment.
And of course, classic Keanu, he's just wrong about everything, and what he wants, always the opposite happens. And so, in many ways, you kind of want him to be your enemy. Keanu does have a funny moment with Rachel where he's like, Rachel, how did you do it? She's like, I don't know what you mean, Keanu. He's like, what did you do? How did you? I don't know, Keanu. I don't know what you mean. Which was very fun moment. So the night continues, and there's no real significant talks. He does talk with Rachel about, hey, I'll chat with you about the noms later after I get the room. They never get a chance to because, oh boy, it's another endurance competition waiting to clear out the room, waiting for Mickey to leave. But eventually they all funnel out, and it's Morgan that comes back up and has the conversation with Vince. He does, before the conversation, mention to the cameras that he is thinking about doing something that might make some people mad, but it's time to make some people mad. And I was like, oh? But he was gesturing toward Mickey.
Mm-hmm.
And in his conversation with Morgan, he said, I'm kind of feeling like a certain someone, but I wouldn't want to do it without your go ahead. And she was like, please do, Mickey.
Yeah. Vince, make person mad, not people. Person, only one person. Because I think you're going to get a lot of unity with this one.
Yeah. Something else worth mentioning leading up to this conversation, even more has been dropping about Mickey to Morgan. She's heard now that Mickey was advocating for Rylie. And why would she be doing that? There's been even more about how she was being told not to trust people like Ava and Will. Ava and Will were being told by Mickey not to trust Morgan. Morgan is done with Mickey to the point where she actually does want her out this week. And so the idea of Mickey going on the block is not only acceptable for Morgan, it is desirable. And the only question now is who goes on the block next to Mickey. And in Vince's eyes, his first option is Ava. She put him on the block. She's not like a huge retaliatory kind of worried about threat. But the second she says Ava's name, Morgan says, no. I don't think you should do Ava. She feels this way because she, again, had that conversation with Ava and said, thank you so much. I owe you my life in this game. And she is already repaying that favor, trying to keep Ava off the block here, trying to prevent Vince from nominating her, even just as a pawn. Let's give Ava a chance. Let's keep her off the block. She says the same for Rachel. I really don't think you should do Rachel. I don't think Rachel should go on the block. Vince says that there are 4 people he's not touching. It's Morgan, Lauren, Will, and Keanu. Everyone else is up for grabs, and that does include Rachel, who he says does scare him. So he is considering Rachel, but Mickey is the current primary target. Still needs some nominees to go next to her. Kelly is the very obvious option here. And especially if you're not doing Ava, Kelly becomes even more of a guaranteed spot on the block there. Then it's who's the third one? Is it Katherine? Is it back to Ava? Morgan again pushes hard to prevent any of the judges from going up on the block. She says it doesn't make sense to do that. Let's give this alliance a shot. And so there's no real solid answer that is given by the end of the night. But as of right now, the most likely thing is something along the lines of Mickey, Kelly, Ava, or Mickey, Kelly, Katherine. Worth noting as well, Vince did have a brief interaction with Katherine where he was starting to do what I assume is going to be his damage control, where he said, I don't like feeling manipulated. I think he's going to act as though Rachel manipulated him into voting Rylie out as his way of getting back in with Katherine. And all Katherine should need to do is go, oh, wow, I hate Rachel so much, Vince. You're totally right. I don't blame you at all. You were tricked. And she may have a chance, right? I think that that Vince is more inclined to go Ava because it just makes a bit more sense for his game to repair with Katherine if he doesn't plan to evict her. So we will see about that. But this is the current idea, seemingly, for Vince.
What is your take on the Ava thing? Do you think that it makes sense, or do you think, well, they just literally said we're voting together in lockstep and discussed it as such in this previous vote, and that should have made a bond stronger than a potential Ava nomination here instead of a tit for tat?
I mean, he did make a solid bond with her here. I think the thing though is that like Ava is not well connected enough at the moment, and not enough of like an active game player that I think it's worth going out of your way to like keep her safe in this spot. I think that there's also like a very easy explanation, something similar to what she did when she was HOH, which is, hey, I need somebody to put on the block. I think I've really like developed a great relationship, but obviously you put me on the block, so you know, I think it's only fair. Sorry. She's maybe mad about it, she's maybe not, but oh well, kind of. At this point, it feels like, again, you know, Morgan's really pushing for the Katherine idea. Katherine could also make sense. I think that there is sometimes too much idea. I mean, we saw this a little bit before. We saw this with Rachel and Morgan. Sometimes just putting the person up gives you an opportunity more so than not putting them on the block to actually mend things with them, because things are more out in the open, and they are more in a position of like needing help. If Katherine's on the block, she needs Vince more than if she isn't on the block. So I think that also makes some sense. And he has a great reason to do so, given that she has been outwardly antagonistic toward him at this point. So I think in the spot that Vince is in right now, I think Katherine does make more sense. But I'm not like that averse to putting Ava on the block.
Okay. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how that goes. Because remind me, who are the people that have not been nominated this season yet? Who's left off the block so far?
Ava has not been nominated. Katherine has still not been nominated.
And Rachel?
Rachel has not been nominated. Lauren has not been nominated. And that's about it.
That's it. Yeah. Yeah. So I'm curious to see, because I feel like sometimes you do not know what kind of reaction you're going to get from someone who's been nominated. So if he's going to rip the Band-Aid on an Ava nom, we'll see how that plays out. And then I feel like Katherine is already in such a like tough space. She's like been sad all night. So we'll see. It's going to be more of the same probably.
Well, here's the other angle to this, especially when it comes to Katherine versus Ava. If you plan to, or at the very least want to keep your options open when it comes to backdooring Rachel, you probably would prefer Ava on the block to Katherine, because that makes it more likely that Rachel would be on the block post veto ceremony against one of her allies rather than one of her enemies. And you would therefore have more potential votes to take Rachel out. So even if he plans to backdoor Rachel, he certainly would prefer Ava on the block. If he even just wants to keep his options open, putting Ava on the block also makes a bit more sense.
All right. And can you promise me that we're not going to get a Kelly, Keanu, and third nom from Vince here? A Kelly, Keanu, Mickey?
He said he is not touching Keanu. I do think that makes sense. Keanu is still a huge problem for other people to take care of, who seemingly is not coming for Vince. Even if he was coming for Vince, he's got plenty of other potential targets. But you know, at some point, you do have to start worrying about like, are you playing with fire? But Vince. I just don't think that Keanu is his biggest problem at the moment.
All right. Well, I hope that lands.
We'll see. Well, that is about what we have for you then from last night. Pooya, anything that you wanted to bring up?
Yes. One thing that's very interesting is Mickey's subtle attempts at manipulation. Once again at full swing. She does ask Vince, "Hey, if I'm not playing in the veto, can I be the host for the veto?" And then he's like, "Sure." And then the rest of the night, she's speaking like she's been given host and she's fine, and you know she ain't gonna go up on that block. It's very subtle, but I mean I see right through it. So I thought it was fun to bring up.
Yeah, I mean, listen. Sometimes a player has gone so far off the deep end that we don't point out every single mistake they're making. But it's wild that Mickey went around campaigning for Rylie to stay and then voted for him to leave, keeping Morgan. Like at that point, it really did behoove her to just vote out Morgan. Like Morgan actively wants her gone now because of everything that she's been doing. So I don't know what in the world she was thinking by going in the direction that she was, but this is Mickey we're talking about, and she has really just completely crumbled in terms of her game, and she still doesn't even know it. I have to imagine she will find out. Vince is not the kind of HOH that's going to be like, I'm making this decision, Mickey, because you have done something to me. Vince is very much the kind of HOH that is going to say, Mickey, I've been talking to a lot of people, and they all are telling me all kinds of things about you, Mickey. And I imagine that will start to, you know, get something going at least. He did also mention, by the way, that that part of this is like revenge for Zach. Remember that the conversation with Morgan has been consistently about like Mickey is potentially the reason why Zach is gone as well. All of Ava's "was I manipulated?" Maybe really got to Morgan, and they are now running with the narrative that that Mickey manipulated Ava's HOH and was the reason why Zach is gone. And so that is another piece of why he is looking specifically at Mickey.
Well, there we go. Yeah, that's all. I just wanted to bring that up because I thought that was a funny moment from last night. But no, otherwise, y'all, I was sitting here till 5 a.m., 5:30 a.m. waiting for something to happen because it was just a slow night. It was a combination of people showering and Morgan, bless her, telling the winner of the wall comp how they should have played to win the wall comp and how she messed up because of her form. And if they did it like this, Morgan would have been fine. So yeah, we didn't get a lot of information, but again, we ate so well with the eviction that it made up for everything. I was okay.
Yes, she did lose because of her form, but I will say Ava using the same form did beat her pretty significantly.
Yeah.
So
she's already off the wall, Terrence. Stop. Why are you bullying her? Let her be. Yeah. And she's one of the 3 have-nots as a result too, for dropping third. So there you go.
Yes. All right. The main interesting thing for me here is, and I said this a while ago, that Morgan being allied with more so with like Vince and Zach, players like that, is going to push them to potentially be more effective. Like Morgan is an active player, and now that she is like locked in with Vince was talking to her about like, you are my number 1 in this game. I will never turn on you. You are my friend, so on and so forth. And And we saw a bit of this here. Morgan did manage to convince Vince to stick with her here. Will she continue to be able to push Vince in the direction that she wants him to go? That the whole season could potentially ride on that, for Morgan, for Vince, for Rachel, for all kinds of players in the game. So that's something else that I think we should continue to look at here. But that is what we have for you today. Again, no exit interview, so I apologize for that. But there will, of course, be a Q&A that will be live very shortly. Rob will join me to talk with the patrons and answer some questions. I'm sure there's going to be plenty of questions this week, so tune in for that if you are a patron of Rob's podcast. In the meantime, check out my YouTube channel, my Twitch channel. I was streaming last night during the episode. There's GIFs everywhere, clips everywhere. If you want to see my reactions to things, I also was streaming during the wall competition last night. That video is up as well, and of course, you see it there in the graphic. If you want to pre-order my book, Behind the Mirror, you can do so at taranarmstrong.com. And that's about it for me. Pooya, what do we got going on?
People can find me on Twitch, twitch.tv/Pooya. I'll be live tonight, 10 p.m. Eastern. So pull up, have a conversation with me. And the Pooya and Liana Lounge will be dropping today. I'm about to leave this, put the finishing touches to the editing, and then have it uploaded. So you should be able to get that in for the weekend. So enjoy.
All right. Well, thank you all so much for joining us here today. And I will see all of you next time.
This is RHAP. We know reality TV.